Firefly is amazing, great, insane, but she has her own issues. That's what we're here to talk about today. Every single reason why you as a free-to-play player might not want to summon for Firefly, all of her negatives, because she has some, believe it or not, despite popular belief, she's not as meta-breaking as even I have said so. So guys, in today's video, we'll be going over every single negative, every single problem with Firefly, because there are some. And I know in the comment section, we're gonna go fishing. We're gonna really fish up the shitters and the dumbass commenters. This is gonna be funny as hell. But anyways, this is gonna be a more realistic approach to Firefly because she is being blown out of proportions. I'm talking to the levels of Acheron, guys, okay? Let's calm down a bit. Not saying that she's not good, because I think she's one of the best DPS in the game, but she does have her issues. Glazing at the end of the video. And I think the reason of this is because of her kit, right? Her kit is very misunderstood, and that's the topic number one. This is a topic that I think applies to most people in the community, or a lot of people in the community, where they just don't understand how a kit works. Hell, even I didn't understand how a kit works. I made a full build guide talking about build her crit rate, build her crit damage, it's gonna be amazing. And that's not the case at all. I mean, I know I'm a dumbass, but come on, guys. But realistically, I do think a lot of people are really gonna misunderstand what Firefly can do and what her actual potential is, right? Same thing when showing like gameplay and damage for Mr. Boothill as well, right? Don't build him crit damage. Why don't you build him like that? Because he is a break character. He is reliant on break, and I think a lot of people misunderstand that. Every time we see Firefly doing absolutely massive big dick damage, it's because we've broken the enemies. That is the mechanic in the game, guys. After you break the enemies, her damage goes up tenfold. Her damage without super break, but whenever the enemy's broken, that damage multiplies significantly, and I think a lot of people are probably going to be under the misconception that they want to build crit rate, crit damage. They just don't know how to build her. The build itself, as far as relics go, is pretty easy to do, like as far as substats and stats that you're actually going to be needing for, but I just think that people are gonna misunderstand how she actually works and how you actually should be building her. But that kind of leads me into point number two now. Another major flaw why you as a free-to-play player might not want to summon on her. Her best in slot relic set is going to be the brand new relic set they're adding into the game. This set, bar none, is the best relic set you could possibly run on her. Why? It gives huge amounts of defense shred to her. Defense shred is a multiplicative stat, especially if you're pairing her with something like Ruan Mei at E1, or even her own E1 that gives defense shred. This is just going to add extra cream on the crop. You really want to be farming for this set. And what does that mean? You're going to be farming a whole new set, hopefully getting brand new subsets for all of these pieces, not to mention probably a new planter set as well. Now, I think other planter sets could help her out, like you could run Talia the Banditry, but if you haven't farmed that already, then you're going to have to farm the new set here as well. You're basically farming a whole new kit for this Firefly. So that is going to be a lot of upfront investment for her with that alone. And that leads us into the next point now, which is the upfront investment that she actually costs. Now, this will not apply to you if you have already built a plethora of already break characters, right? You've already built Harmony MC. You already have a Ruan Mei in your account. You have Gallagher built up already, right? This will really won't apply to you because you already have them built, but she suffers the same fate as dot characters did when they first came to the game. Now, dot characters have really come into their own spotlight now. They are probably the best overall team in the game, and I think Break, I don't think Break will be there someday, but I do think Break will be up there, right? I'll explain why I don't think Break will be there in a second here, though. But the point I'm trying to make here is, just like when Kafka came out, there's a lot of upfront investment. You have to build Gallagher to get the extra break damage that she's going to be able to do, the extra break damage for the team, doing extra toughness to the enemy, because they're both the same type, so that works really well there as well. On top of that, you're going to have to build Harmony MC, because her damage is going to go out the window if you don't have super break damage, so that's just kind of dead. So that's a whole new character you have to build, a whole new relic set you have to farm there as well. And on top of that, you're having to farm a relic set for Gallagher as well, because everyone relies on break effects, so you can't just throw a lot of these off pieces that you would normally throw on sustain character on him, because he has a very niche and specific build that you need. And then on top of that, Ruan Mei, while she is not needed, she is very beneficial to the team. Now, with all this being said, there are not really many break supporters in the game right now, right? Sure, Ruan Mei works as a break supporter. There's no 4-star break supporter in the game right now, unless you want to run someone like Asta, which is really not break support. I mean, the attack helps the break out, but ultimately not the end-all be-all for break, right? She is not specified for break. I don't think we've gotten that in the game yet, because I think in the future we'll probably have a character come to the game like a 5-star character that is quite literally just specifically meant for break comp. comps, right? I think Ruan Mei is a great break support. I don't think she's actually going to be the de facto break character because she has damage bonus, which really doesn't affect what you're doing too much with Miss Firefly anyway. So that's why I see it as this team's not complete yet. Break right now feels like when Kafka got added to the game to me, right? Where Kafka had Sampo to work with. He had, I guess, maybe Luke. Did he have Luca to work with? I don't know. There wasn't very many options that Kafka really had to work with there. So that's how I feel like this is now. Like, there's not many options for a break team right now. Really, the point here is, guys, there is just a lot of upfront investment for this team, and especially if you're a new player coming to the game, that is a big trek to endeavor. And this kind of leads into the point now. There's no really team diversity, right? There's really only one team you can run, right? Unless you run her a different way and her damage falls off pretty big, because, you know, the team is going to be Harmony MC, Gallagher, Ruan Mei, potentially, and her, right? What else are you putting on the team that's going to support with break? Like I mentioned before, there's nothing else. That's it. This is the team you're going to have to run in every single thing right now, right? Now, weakness implant is not an issue because she implants her own weakness on the enemy, but overall, there is not much diversity here, so you need a very specific team to actually run her. Now, with that being said, do I think she's going to get more support in the future? Absolutely. I think break is going to get way more support in the future. Do I think she's going to get support in the near future? Probably not. I feel like this is the creme de la creme, the top diddly top of the break. Maybe the next version patch will get something to help with break, but I feel like the next patch will probably be something with follow-up. That just seems like the direction they're going, break and follow-up. We just got the creme de la creme de facto, like, break queen, which is Firefly herself, and I really don't think we're going to get much of that in the next version we're getting, because it seems like we're getting Foxboy, which is an Anhility unit. So, Pog, champion there. And now one more thing I want to touch on while we're talking on her niche teammates. She has a very niche playstyle too. She has to break. Her damage goes out the window if you don't break. You can run her on like hypercarry teams, but her damage goes down quite a bit. I want to make a video on damage because I feel like a lot of people underestimate damage just because, you know, a character that's normally doing 500k, 600k on their best team, they're dropping down to like 200k, 100k damage per skill. That doesn't mean they're bad, by the way. I just want to let that be out there, let that be known, right? But in terms of like how much efficiency you're losing, it is bad in terms of efficiency, not bad in terms of damage, I would say. I'm going to make a whole video talking about this in the future here. And also, if you've watched to this point in the video and you didn't click on a timestamp, because there won't be a timestamp for this. If you put YouTube, this was a great video in the comment section, I will be doing a raffle for this in 24 hours. Whoever types this, you can have a chance to win a free 10 pull when Firefly releases. So go ahead and put that. I will put a timestamp here so no one will know. Let's get back to the actual video now so people won't actually know. Woo. But realistically, if you have an enemy or encounter an enemy that really can't have anything to do with like breaking their shield, or they just have a massive toughness bar, like 3 toughness bars like we've seen from the new boss added into the game, I think this is going to be a pretty rough time for her, right? Break teams, the thing with them is that if you can't break the enemy, the damage just kind of goes out the window versus like a dot team, right? Dot's a really backloaded damage, but you can still get damage on the enemies as long as you're able to put the dot on them in the first place. That's going to be a really fun time. Someone like Kafka is able to reproc that dot and front load some of that damage. So we would need some other support character or some other DPS, sub-DPS character that's able to, I guess, maybe like front load the damage of break characters more. Maybe like when the character is unbroken, they'll do the break damage on the enemies and right there instead. I don't know how that would work. That's what I feel like it needs. Alright guys, and now on to our news section now, where I take your guys' comments about Firefly, what could be wrong with her, and really display them out here now. So, first of all, an issue she has is that she's not free. Yeah, she's not not free. She's too good! Okay, well, the problem with her is that she's too good. And then from Amateur, we have one more comment I really want to touch on as well. Her team flexibility as of release, I imagine more break, super break supports are on the way though. Also, I don't have enough to E2S1 her. I don't know why we have this perception that we need to E2S1 every character after Acheron now. Absolutely not. She works just fine with there. I'll glaze her after this section here. Very relatable. I have all the pieces, but I want to be able to use different teams. Same sentiment that I brought up earlier as well. She doesn't have very different teams that you can actually use. All right, and this is the comment that I wanted to point out here as well from Jark689. They say she seemed kind of niche, getting carried by current MOC in her best in slot. Actually, very valid point. I think after this MOC, she is going to fall off quite a bit, honestly. And I think a great example of this is the gameplay that Moon shows over here, right? Like, this is using a more free-to-play team, obviously, without using Ruan Mei, but the point here is they're absolutely getting carried by MOC buff. Now, why do I say this, right? They're able to beat this in 2 cycles with the MOC buff, right? how much do you think that's actually going to affect Firefly when the MOC buff is not there? You gotta think, they're getting attack buff and a free action advance forward, which is basically like a Bronya buff, right, for free. They're AoE attack, so they always basically hit it. So you're always getting free turns with Firefly if you're playing this properly. So you're just getting a bunch more extra turns with her, especially within her ultimate state as well. I do think she'll fall off quite a bit after the MOC buff, especially for the more free-to-play teams if you don't have the full setup of Ruan, Mei, Imaginary MC, and then also Gallagher as well. Maybe MOC 12 goes from like a 2 cycle to a 3 to 4 cycle, which is not bad by any means necessary, but if you don't have them built up well enough, that can mitigate and go down and down and down to, you know, 5 cycles, 6 cycles, and more and more and more. I do think that she's a bit overhyped for what she can actually do overall, right? Like, there are just some caveats when you're actually going to run her. And then also, I don't think comparing her to Acheron is very reasonable, because Acheron just damage is just out of this world, right? So I feel like it's kind of unfair to compare to Acheron. I feel like we're comparing to Acheron. Like I said before, I feel like she should sit in between Acheron and Jingle You Danny. I think she should be in between those in terms of the damage output she can do, and it absolutely looks like she is there. So in that case, I feel like she is the great positioning, and this is where we're going to start glazing, all right? Do I think she's going to be a great DPS? I do think she'll probably be like a top 3 DPS. Granted that you can actually break the enemy. I feel like she's a niche type character because you have to break the enemy for her to unleash her full damage potential. She's a much more well-rounded unit, I feel, than Boohill actually is, and for me, that puts her up way on the tier list for me, right? That having more well-rounded units is what I like, right? Sure, throw them in their own niche damage type, but when they're not able to be in that niche, at least let them do some amounts of damage so you can still run them and make them viable. I feel like Boohill is not viable against enemies that are just not getting broken, right? Because he's going to rely on killing the enemies, especially for fighting a boss. You put him in the gun stance, like, here, partner, come here, brother, and then you're like, oh, they're attacking me, oh, like that, right? What are you going to do in that situation? He just dies because you're not able to break their shield or really kill them or to do anything to them. You're not doing any damage. He's better than Argenti for sure. He's probably on the tier with like Zila and them, right? If I were to give my actual opinion on that. Anyways, guys, do I think she's going to be good? I think she's going to be good with the sauce. Pull on her if you want to pull on her. But for the reasons I mentioned today, don't pull on her. If you're a free-to-play player and you're struggling with these issues already, especially with building your account up, she requires so much out of the gate that it is going to be very hard for unestablished players to actually do that. Anyways, gamers, that's going to do it for today's video. If you enjoyed, like if you like, dislike if you dislike, and that's going to do it for me. See you guys later. Bye-bye.